Recording in progress.
So we'll move on to the inventory chapters.
Yes, so today I think we're going a little bit low tech. And what we wanted to try to accomplish today was reviewing the fiscal capacity chapter. We're gonna talk about regional coordination a little bit and then jump into talking a little bit more about our public meeting. So by the end of the meeting, hope we can go over this chapter, talk about any other questions that we might have for the town, because we have some lingering questions for fiscal capacity, so we can write them down and then integrate that. I think our meeting is next week with Kyle in May. And then think about any other key takeaways. And then for the regional section, I think really focusing in on let's keep brainstorming lists. So we have some suggestions here of regional partners under these topics, but love to brainstorm some more. And then we'll dive into the other stuff.
Is this different than what was sent out?
Nope. If you've highlighted it, that's yours.
Okay.
I just made hard copies in case somebody brought one. Anybody need one?
It's easier. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Fiscal capacity.
Great, yeah.
Fiscal capacity.
All right. So for fiscal capacity, basically, what's the reason to review the town's fiscal capacity is because it gives us an idea of, where the health of the town's finances are, and gives the ability for, as we're starting to think about, all these things that you want to do in the comp plan, does the town actually have the capacity to do any of them? All in all, probably no surprise to anybody, but everything's good.
Yeah. Good.
There's a few interesting things, but basically, yeah, strong fiscal base. The town does has had some increases in expenses over the past few years based on what's happened with public safety and fire department and police and all that good stuff. So that is reflected in some of the numbers. Valuation obviously is going up every year. The state valuation is also going up, which is a reflection of real estate values and whatnot. But there's still healthy reserves. Town has a really good capital improvement plan. We like to really try to push capital improvement planning because, when you build something, you really need to start to think about paying for the end of the lifespan. So the town's been really good about that. And then like many communities around and in Maine, there's a huge reliance on property taxes as a way to fund all this stuff. So those are some of the big things that we picked up on. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at it or had any additional thoughts or questions.
I was sort of impressed.
Yeah,
That I'm so used to towns not having any money.
right.
Cities not having any money. So
Yeah,
it looked like they were wise stewards of the money.
What's interesting though is I've heard a lot of people talk at different wealth levels about property tax increases, and it's hurting a lot of people.
yeah, I would say that's a really good observation, Kathy. I think that what you see is it comes with some benefits, the high valuation and the property taxes, but it also comes with a lot of costs. The property taxes can be high, and it's really gets back to, high values means back to the housing prices. So there's some pros and cons for sure, but it does provide. It's interesting to think about the opportunities that it could provide to try to deal with some of this stuff.
And our town has services that other towns don't, like trash pickup,
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah, one thing we haven't done as much is to look at like, okay, how does it compare with other towns? But if Southwest Harbor has a really high mill rate and not a lot of services to go with it. But I bet the valuation is also like on an upward trend as well. So
I would encourage people to pay attention to the reorganization discussions in the schools, because that's going to affect the tax rate.
in a good way or in a negative, which way? I guess that's what it's going to go up.
Well, the whole idea, and I'm not advocating for or against it here.
Yep.
But the whole idea is that you have one system and you attempt to try to equalize the property tax. If you accept this model, the property taxes, so that no matter what town you're in, for a similarly valued property, you're paying the same amount of money. And when you run those numbers, you will find that if you would, in a new system, if you're paying for the entire system as a based, like what they're proposing is 80% based on property valuation, 20% based on enrollment, which is a shift upward from what the high school funding formula is. You will find that every taxpayer in Mount Desert will pay more money. And hopefully they're gonna come, I've not been directly involved in that process. That's a separate committee that's been doing that work. But I suspect there will soon be meetings. They're hoping for a June vote. Each town has the right to decide independently, do we accept this or we not? And if any of the 4 towns on this island reject it, then it has to go back to the drawing board. But you'll end up with one school board. I don't get all the particulars, but the bottom line for this purposes is everybody's taxes are gonna go up. And you have to decide if that's really the right, the fair number, how you think it should happen, is it worth it? I mean, they had a bunch of other things they were trying to accomplish, like having one middle school and having it at Pematic, and there was so much carrying on at Pematic that they immediately dropped that idea. So this, basically what they're talking about at this point is changing the administration, changing the composition of the school board, so not having individual school boards having, I mean, they talk about local school committees, but they don't have any power. And having one school board for everything and changing the funding formula, and that's it for now. And I you know, I'm super in support of reorganization and delivering education in a more efficient and effective manner for our kids. And people just have to decide if you agree with that, but also if you think this proposal is going to accomplish that, as opposed to basically shifting deck chairs.
And does the reorganization save anybody any money in what they spend?
No, and what will happen is that we'll be paying for all the schools, all the K-8 schools. I mean, all the towns will be, but the budget as it gets calculated will be one budget, not individual budgets plus the high school and central office. It'll be one budget and it'll get divided up by a funding formula, whatever that is. And that, no matter how you dice it, that means that there's, I can't remember what the numbers are. I kind of very roughly guessed by looking at my house that I was probably going to pay $1,500 more, just like right off the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That much.
Wow.
But that's a guess.
Did they change the funding formula that was proposed as part of like the original round that they were going around and talking about, that kind of, or did that get scrapped after Southwest Harbor
Nope.
meeting?
That was the original, that's the original funding formula with a 2-year phase in, which is pretty sharp also.
Did other towns have their taxes reduced?
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. The burden would shift. Barbara, maybe not so much, but definitely the other towns. So we'll just have to decide if based on that, go and listen to the pros and cons, but just pay attention to it.
Mhm.
I don't know if they've set up another meeting. They went to a bunch of towns. They went to Southwest, they went to Trenton. They tried to do a Bar Harbor one, didn't get too many people turn out. And I said to them, do not schedule a meeting in the summer. They were doing this in like June and July, and I said, do not do it in Mount Desert in the summer. It's not fair. People are busy. So they put it off, and then they've sort of shifted gears now. They've given up on the idea of a November vote, but they've switched it. They want to do it in June. So it's worth hearing them out and then deciding what you think whether you think this is a good plan. But definitely, I would expect them to come to this meeting and being able to present a formula that you could plug your taxes into and see how your taxes would change. They can certainly do that. They've had Rob Lebo advising them. Therefore I know they can do
Mhm.
that. So. I'm not sure of Rob's status at this point. He's back in the hunt, but.
So when you were reading through this, any other thoughts?
I wondered, the change in valuation had a huge jump between just this last year, from 24 to 25. I mean, by my calculations, it was almost 28% increase.
Yep.
That's huge.
Yes.
So why was that? But there wasn't a new valuation done. Is it just more bigger houses?
That's what the state
The
numbers are.
state or so many have sold?
That's one of the questions we're trying to get answered with Kyle and May also.
And on taxes, I know we have homestead tax exemptions or a reduction there, right? Is there any other wiggle room to make it less tax burden for year-round residents?
You have a veterans exemption. You have an exemption if you're blind. I have to think about the other ones. But there are more, but you have to qualify.
Is that they call a local options tax? Is that a
That-
legal issue that you can't,
That's what I'm
town
wondering
can't
about. Yeah.
impose a particular tax on certain?
Around taxes.
Know a lot about that. Suzanne?
Yes. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's, I think we should, because it's important for everybody to know. And Suzanne has done a lot of work on this, so I'll let her talk about it.
Like what's the deal with local options?
Yep.
Taxes, so Maine is one of 3 states that does not allow it, like at the state level, it's just not allowed. So the way we've talked about it is in the context of our like housing solutions work. At the first housing summit, people talked about the idea of like, what if there was a housing trust fund, like some pot of money where you could use it to help pay for infrastructure upgrades or improvements, or a town could engage in a public-private partnership to help build affordable housing, or you could, the town could purchase land that they then put forth to help bring down the cost of a housing development. So an example of this that's been floated around in Bar Harbor is a local option lodging tax. And Noel was telling me they were at a meeting and some people thought it meant that it was a tax on locals just because the name was confusing, but it's not. It's actually the opposite in that sense that if you come and stay at a hotel or a B&B, that there would be a small percentage of tax that would then be captured locally. Right now, everything goes to the state and then, you know, gets put into many amazing programs that the state funds and runs, which is a good thing. So it'd be on top of a state tax. And
they're not worried about that impacting visitors, because visitors already pay a 9% sales and use tax.
right, yeah, they're not. We talked to a lot of people, well, some people are. The state chamber is concerned about that, or historically has been. We've talked the most to Bar Harbor. Their chamber is not concerned about it. And we've talked to people in the hospitality industry in particular, and like it's very common in other parts of the country. You just sort of factor that in to the cost. But in fact, what was proposed in the last, there's been bills that have gone through the legislature like every year for the last.
85 of them have
Yes.
got something like
And
that.
they always do.
Enormous number of
And
bills.
there's a very kind of like loose logic around why it isn't a good idea. And I think the people who are proponents are trying to do more sort of marketing and kind of analysis of like how this could actually help a lot. I did a data analysis looking at the Department of Revenue numbers and just looking at like what does 1%, 2%, or 3% look like, and then breaking it down like for 40 towns in Maine per capita and then per household. And in some cases, it's like $1,500 of potential, if the argument is to like help alleviate property tax burdens. But I think in all of these cases, it's like, how do you be creative with the money that is there and like make it tie in logically, right? If you had a small local options lodging tax that could stay local to your town, or let's say it was a consortium of towns that shared this housing trust fund, could be really interesting. It could generate millions of dollars every year. And then you could do great things with it. Yeah.
As a Mainer who considers herself a member of the state of Maine,
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible idea.
Mhm.
Because it accelerates the have and have not
That's
differences.
the big part, one of the big
And
arguments again.
I think it's probably the biggest reason why it hasn't passed and why it shouldn't pass.
It's,
And I get it here,
Mhm.
but I also will say this. In this town, I will bet you that the people of means find that the tax rates here are a piece of cake compared to what they pay at any of their other big properties in other parts of the country.
Mhm.
That the tax rate they pay here is much less than they pay in Greenwich, or they pay
Are you talking about their property?
their
taxes?
property
Or
taxes.
Their lodging.
Their
taxes?
property tax.
Well, okay.
So in terms of who benefits from having that lodging tax, you're gonna have to distribute it. You're not gonna be able to just give it to certain groups of people. You're gonna actually be mostly benefiting the people who don't need the benefit, potentially, in a system like that. But I guess in addition to that, the real problem is not property taxes, the problem is how we tax income and wealth. Period. That's the real problem, that we push so much of it onto things like property taxes and sales taxes, which are extraordinarily regressive. And lodging tax is a form of a sales tax. So at some point in this process, we ought to be thinking about the big issues, and we ought to be thinking about making a statement about that. I mean, we can't change that, of course. But it's the problem.
Right. I think
So-
part of what we need to focus on are the tools that we have at our disposal to deal with things. And so in a comprehensive plan, we can point out that the data shows that there is a heavy reliance on property taxes and that there are limited tools at our disposal to try to adjust that, but that you could explore whatever tools you have at your disposal to make sure that that's, equitably distributed, or however we want to phrase it. So there are ways that we can capture that, but we're not going to be able to even, in a comprehensive plan, the town could say, as if it were the consensus of the committee, that, explore and support efforts to do local option taxes or whatever. But there's things to think about when we get to that phase. But I think that what we're going to do here is say, this is what we know. And then what tools do we have at our disposal to address those things? Otherwise, I think that, and then maybe there's some creative ways to word in things that are like, here are the bigger sort of societal things at play that we need to then factor
This
into.
is the elephant in the living room. I mean, we can agree to ignore the elephant in the living room, but.
Well, I don't know if I wouldn't suggest that we're ignoring anything.
No, I know, it's outside of our scope to.
Yes, and I will continue to kind of like push this narrative a little bit, which is this is great because these are things that are affecting things that we have to wrestle with. But then we have to focus on like, okay, what is this document going to be able to do? What is the purpose of this thing that we've been tasked to do? And how do we address it appropriately in this document? I don't know the answer to that, but I just sort of struggle with that because otherwise, I think we could have some really deep conversations about all these really important topics, and then still not like pass the check box that we have to actually do in order to get this thing,
So
approved.
you could think about like a non-tax option, right? That could similarly create a fund or a pot of money, through some other means, right? Like that could be recommended. If there, and I'm going back to the housing example, but if there was a sentiment that like, oh, if only the town had, more, to bring resources to bring to the table to help, build new housing, for example, where could that come from? And maybe if it doesn't currently exist, should there be some sort of strategic thinking around creating a new fund or budgeting for something or setting money aside if there is a excess, setting money aside in the future to say like, we're going to save, we're doing well, we're going to save X amount over the next 10 years to help, pay for those things. Those are just like,
Can you do that?
Examples.
We could recommend that.
That's a good question. I mean, we could recommend it, whether or not you're able to do that, but if you, could you create a capital improvement plan that deals with housing?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised at the capital improvement plan that they had one, because,
it's very organized
yeah.
compared to a lot that we're seeing.
And so perhaps that's where one needs to try and latch on to, because there's a lot of talk about the problems with the sewer pipes and in the road, and we experienced that when we were renting, and
Yep,
where pipes would just blow and be
yes,
running wild, and you'd walk by and say, where is that coming from? And try and get some help to get it stopped.
yep. Actually, I think Mount Desert is fairly proactive in trying to like just deal with all that, methodically. Same with road,
Yeah.
road paving and.
Yeah,
all that
I was,
stuff.
I must say, I was impressed.
Yep.
I did not expect, because from what I've seen in the past, it's like at some point they really kind of got their act together. Must
Yeah.
have gotten so bad with the fires and the fire hydrants that didn't work and
Yep.
all that nonsense.
Feels like, yeah, Durham.
That kind of future thinking and saving them up money for other infrastructure, for if we had to build new housing, put in the services, utilities that might
Right.
make that more.
Something that, it just seemed like there might be some potential for that
Yep.
in this, a different way of thinking.
Yeah,
Sure.
Which would be lovely.
in our
Yep.
housing trust fund model, all of this is very like experimental, what if thinking, right? But I was like, if you had some local option tax to contribute, if you had a short-term rental registration fee and some percentage of that went in there, or if you had municipal budgeting for it, and maybe there was a transfer tax, like some percentage of a real estate transfer tax, like where are those small pieces that individually are not so burdensome, but collectively create a pot of money that could be used to like address something.
Major problems.
So the interest from real estate brokerage escrow accounts, which is where your earnest money deposit goes, that interest is swept from every broker in the state, every agency in the state, and that is sent to Maine State
Yes.
Housing for the first time home buyers program.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize that. But
That's a good
that's a
thing.
huge thing that's
Yeah.
happening, right? That's a lot of money every single month that's sent to Maine State Housing.
Yeah, it's good. A little bit helps.
Are they transfer taxes, or is that allowed, and where does that money
To the state.
goes to the state? And
There
what
are
does
transfer
and
taxes.
the state?
They
goes
use
to
it
Maine
for
housing?
main housing, yeah.
And none of it comes back to the individual town where the transfer is
Because
made.
that would be local, yeah. No, yeah, it goes to fund main housing programs, yeah.
And would any municipality be able to create a thing that just stayed within the town?
It's really, there are even little things that I find really interesting. So it's fun to brainstorm ideas and be like, so I think that short-term rental registration is always a great example for me. But if you have like a license fee, like there are rules around how much you can charge for licensing fees or any sort of fees, which on the one hand makes a lot of sense. Then on the other hand, if you have to get to the point of having a license, then it's, for those kinds of things, it's really interesting to be kind of capped at a certain administrative level, and as opposed to like, how do we use this to offset a negative,
I
But,
think this town charges very little for building permit. So,
yep, we actually have done that analysis already. Yeah. It's not that bad comparatively, to be honest, to like, but that doesn't mean. You know. Those are interesting policy discussions, actually. Yeah,
But given that we've only built 100 new
Mm.
houses in the last decade, probably not a great revenue source.
well, it depends on whether if you made a percentage of the value of the
Mm.
project or something.
yeah, or
Architect
is it,
piece.
is that fee really truly offsetting the cost of like,
Yeah.
how much time it takes to administer
Because,
just
yeah,
that program, just that department? Because it
Yeah,
probably
exactly.
doesn't, but that's not a, that's like
the
a
work that
policy
Kim has to
decision.
do in order to shepherd, you know, in the middle of one of these complicated projects. is-
Yep. And I just think those are interesting. So that's a policy choice that the town makes in order to like say, hey, you know what, there's also building permit fees that we don't want to charge a lot of money for. Because sometimes people need a building permit and they can't afford the other fee, like some fees, you know, so it's an interesting policy dilemma.
And are properties all taxed on the same, whether it's a commercial or a residential? There's no distinction in taxes between those
I
uses.
think that's true. Yeah,
That's
there is a way to do it. Kyle explained this to me once before. Because somebody once said to me that like, commercial real estate is more beneficial tax wise than residential, but I can't quite figure out why. But he did say, yeah, it's all taxed kind of the same, but you could go in and there are ways to go in and do a different model for certain types of things. You have to do it a different way.
Well, you
I can't explain
evaluate
it, so I'm not gonna do it.
Right, I think it'd be the valuation, right?
Yeah.
A quarter acre commercial is worth a lot more.
That's how you figure that valuation, yeah. Yep. So commercial real estate's usually a little higher. More commercial development is better for
Because
taxes
of the
than,
value, not because of a different mill rate.
Correct.
We all pay the same mill rate.
Yes.
And there's been discussion of like, should properties that are used commercial, like residential properties used commercially as lodging be valued differently? And that's a whole big,
yep.
See, if we
Yeah.
spot zone things, then year-round houses could be in their own zone, and then they could have a different rates.
Could they have different rates?
I don't know.
I think you could, yeah, I think you have to have a use
Different
category
values.
that
Yeah.
is different, not necessarily, the zoning doesn't really affect it as much as like, how does the assessing
Yes.
categorize a certain thing? And I'm not sure, and this is a question would be really interesting to ask Kyle. You know, is there a way to change the assessment of a property that you know is used for one thing? If it's currently being, you know, not to pick, I'm gonna pick on short-term rentals, but if it's a short-term rental and you know it's a lodging, is there a way to assess it differently? I don't know the answer to that. What's that?
It's a lot of policing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's sort of where Bar Harbor is at, really,
Right,
like they
correct.
do spend a tremendous amount of money on sort of,
Checking in on things.
well, yeah, they have software programs and,
Yep.
third-party organizations that like, you know, try and monitor compliance.
Mhm.
Yeah. And again, I'm not arguing about the policy pros or cons of that particular question. It's just an interesting question.
Mhm.
Could you even do it if you wanted to? Then somebody else at a higher level than us needs to make that choice.
Mhm.
Well, you said you were gonna be talking with Kyle, right?
What's that?
Did you say you were gonna be talking with Kyle soon?
Yeah, we're gonna be, I think that would be a really interesting question to ask him.
Mhm.
Yeah. I also am interested in some things that popped out at me were that the state's was it the share revenue sharing has gone up quite a bit, and I'm kind of curious why. What was the effect? What was the change in revenue sharing? Because it seems like Mount Desert wouldn't really.
Why did that go up when the valuation went up?
Yeah, that's what I'm curious
Well,
about. The effect of that.
Percentage wise, it went up, but in terms of the actual dollars to the town, it's still relatively insignificant.
True, but I'm wondering why, because I don't know what the difference was, but it seemed like it went up quite a bit. money-wise.
50 to like 100 and something.
So what was is it just a percentage change and therefore we get more or what? But yeah, I don't understand the connection, so I just want to ask. I think there's a couple other blips in here that were interesting, like the difference between total valuation. did really go up between 24 and 25.
Getting that valuation is an interesting thing.
Yep.
Somebody I've been talking to recently wondered about what impact having solar panels on your house and having an energy efficient house might have on bank loans that you might get, et cetera. And I'm wondering about any tax implications. Are you assessed? Does your assessment go up because you have these things on there, which is going to be good for the environment or good for this or good for that? And should those kinds of attributes of a home that are energy efficient and maybe solar powered, different heating systems, there's a value to it? Do they add to the cost? And so it adds to your assessment and so you pay more in taxes. Is there some way to not have that happen so that we would encourage people to have more energy efficient homes, solar power, et cetera?
Here.
Yeah.
Sure, that's a great question. Yeah. Yep. Any other questions about fiscal capacity?
Did everybody buy a lottery ticket yesterday and win?
The
The Powerball?
I'd like to say that if I did, I might not be here today,
First, maybe.
but I probably would try to fly under the radar for a little.
Exactly.
You don't want to win the lottery, no, all the time.
Oh, that's what Mary always
The
says.
Happiness Project
Oh,
podcast. There's that one episode, The Unhappy Millionaire.
Mary always says that too, and I'm like, still.
but it sure would be fun to
Good.
kind of think about it.
You can then afford to have somebody else deal with it.
If you make it to the billionaire, do you become happy again?
Like, how much lottery do you get?
Well, we could do
1.4
a
billion.
survey here.
You guys have to listen to this.
All right. Anything else on fiscal capacity?
Mm-mm.
Let's talk about regional coordination. This is one of those topic areas that is really interesting in the sense that this is a handout. Nobody has this.
And I also explain, like, it's on the agenda under that inventory category. It's not an inventory per se. But the state asks when you do comprehensive plans that you look at all of the ways that you are coordinating outside of your town. What are those?
Yeah.
Organizations or, other what's it called? Shared services, relationships that you might have.
Yeah, and the other thing that a lot of times when we go through the regional coordination section of a plan, when we're working with other towns, it's sort of, it's a really rough. We sort of breeze through it a little bit because, people coordinate, but I think here in Mount Desert and on Mount Desert Island, that the regional coordination piece is actually really important. And there's a lot of thinking about, we're actually working on a project right now to really think about a regional strategic plan and, the fact that we might be a one island community, but we're actually a big island and there's a lot of interconnectedness. So thinking about regional coordination from our perspective is kind of important. So the way that we broke this down, just as for a thought exercise and organizational structure in the plan, is to really think about it under the key issues. So a lot of them are similar to our inventory issues. We're talking about housing, we're talking about economy, transportation. So a couple of questions as we're going through this, and maybe I think what I'd like to do is brainstorm other regional partners as we're going through each of the topics. And then maybe at the end, the question is, did we capture all the key issues? So first question is, let's just go through it. And what about housing? So we have a couple of housing regional partners just sort of listed for our conversation, but we have MDI Ellsworth Housing Authority, Island Housing Trust, we put MD 365 on there. Who else?
YWCA,
Sure.
Jackson Lab has housing,
Are you gonna type?
Lab has housing,
Well, you're talking about issues, so
COA, but they could all be partners because they all have an interest in having more housing because they need it for their employees.
you're talking about could be partners or are partners on this list?
It could be partners.
That's all of these.
Yep. So, all right,
I think that's an interesting point, Kathy, because when we did our summits, we were like, you guys are all solutions partners, you know, even if some of those partners haven't like stepped forward yet, you know, but thinking of it that way.
Well, we, at the town's Economic Development Committee meeting, we talked a lot about housing there and decided, you know, this group and that group and the other group are all doing something.
Yeah.
This is how that housing solutions things kind of got started, I
Yeah.
think. From those conversations, because there were so many entities that are looking at
Yeah.
housing or trying to figure it out.
Right,
Or actively building.
right.
so I lost track after YW.
The Y, Jackson Lab,
COA.
Bio
I
Lab,
think you should put the national park in there.
COA, yeah,
COA.
Park, FOA. Everybody who ends in A.
Yeah, all the A's.
Don't you think
So
also
we're talking about
independent
places of
hotels that offer housing?
desperate needs, you've got,
Mhm.
it's everybody.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got the
I mean, I think
hospital,
one thing
yeah.
that we're struggling with, or maybe that's not the right way to describe it, is there is a sentiment of like, well, a lot, understandably, like, I need to take care of my employees, so I'm going to like do this thing for us. Understandably, right? But then like, I think the YW is a good example of like, we're gonna build something that's not necessarily just for like YWCA employees. But yeah. So with them, maybe, or,
I just wrote business
Yeah.
owners.
yeah.
And we're brainstorming now, but as we get this full list together, we may want to think about how we break this out into more simplified categories and maybe it like area nonprofits becomes a topic or something like that.
You did not add COA.
Nope, I did not. That was one I was forgetting the other A.
And I think that, yeah, everybody needs it, but those entities are actually working on it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yep. Who else? Are there any other places in Ellsworth that work on housing? Like support housing?
Healthy Community works on housing and including in partnership with people on the island.
Do you want to add the Emmaus Center?
What?
The Emmaus Center?
I'm not familiar with that.
The Emmaus Center is the homeless shelter at the
Mhm.
bottom of Main Street in Ellsworth.
Yeah.
Right at the intersection.
E.
EMAUS,
Yeah, I think it's two M's.
yeah, Emmaus.
Okay.
You know, if you go from there, you can actually get a voucher
Great.
eventually.
I wonder, does Penquist Cap do stuff here also?
or Bangor,
Bangalore? They don't come Ellsworth way?
no.
Well, the other thing is we have very few housing opportunities that would accept a voucher because of the pricing.
Right.
That's a good question.
So I'm not clear on the purpose of this list.
The
What's that?
state wants the town to go through and think about, make a list of partners and ways in which the town collaborates.
Well, then, this is not that list.
Okay,
My question to you wasn't that specific. It was, as we're brainstorming, who are our regional partners that we should be thinking about putting on a list, whether or not we categorize them differently or not, that are related to the topics that we're going through. So we're just brainstorming, like, here's a bunch of housing partners, here's a bunch of, if we're talking about transportation, who should we be thinking about? Do we already do
We
stuff
have
with
your
them?
group
Yes, or do we,
for housing, what's the
what's that?
name of your group that you spend a lot of time?
We have the MDI Housing Solutions Initiative.
Okay, well.
Yep. Was that up there?
Yeah, so.
Assuming it's still around in 10 years.
Well, that's what we do an update.
Next, no, worry about that.
So don't be constrained by something so specific.
Well, and you've also got DHS because they are helping people.
Mhm.
And I can't remember the name of the people on the Christian Ridge Road that help with housing vouchers either. There's a part of that.
Nope.
I can see the building, can't tell you what it says on the sign.
Yeah, it's on the left. coming
Yeah.
this way.
See, you can see the building.
Me too, I'm like, yeah, what you mean?
Right.
I don't know what it is.
I think that there's a lot of regional housing stuff going on right now, so we could spend a lot of time talking about that. But what about transportation? We had Down East Transportation, Island Connections. I don't know who else does transportation. I don't think DOT needs to go on the list.
Do you add the Jackson Lab with
Their
their
buses.
transportation,
Yeah.
even though they don't really travel into the town of Mount Desert?
Well,
They
that's
got
through
people
down
that
East
take them.
transportation.
They go right across the bridge, that's our town.
It's okay if there's only two.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking of the traffic jams, that's all then.
I don't know if there's any like bike ped,
There's the Maine Bicycle Coalition.
that they do work around here.
Well, one of the board of directors works at the Seacoast Mission, so. And I think they can do like bicycle fairs and stuff. There was a group of people not so long ago who wanted to widen Peabody Drive.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how formalized they were. I know Gordon Beck was part of that.
Bike whip, bike.
Yeah.
Free to dream.
Yeah, dream the impossible dream.
Okay.
Well, that sounds a little far afield.
How about economy?
I don't know.
You think about our economy chamber, is there like?
Chambers, yeah.
Yeah, and this chamber has combined with the Acadia Chamber, which I didn't know even existed.
That's the one in Southwest Harbor.
Mhm.
They're combined now?
Well, they're not, no, they're
They're
just,
just
they,
working together.
they're collaborating.
Yep.
They did a publication and
Yeah, everybody's really proud of that publication too.
It's great.
Good job.
it is.
All right, yeah, economic development, that's the other thing I think about, aside from MD 365, though, are there other entities that?
Is Judy Sproul still working on stuff in Trenton?
She's now on the select board.
Yeah.
But we had, so Judy and I and a couple of other people formed, it started off with when Judy was at the bio lab and we were talking about businesses and bringing people together and networking and sort of a scientific technology kind of center. And we brought in somebody from the Foster Center for Innovation at Maine and Small Business Development Center. So as far as economy, small business development centers, BEI, Island Institute, those are good people to connect with. And one of the others was the Down East Institute, Aquaculture Institute down in Beals. And so we were trying to create a region of the state north of Portland to attract people and money to help facilitate. And we have so many scientists here. We have so much NIH contact and funding coming into the island. Used to anyway, when we started it, we did.
Yeah.
And there are lots of things going on that other people don't know about, and it's not an attraction. So that's what we were working with. But I have a meeting coming up September 15th with a group of people to talk about how could we help foster a technology-based economy in this area. And so it's somebody from COA is coming, a couple of summer residents who are in, they're either venture capitalists in technology or they're tech business founders. Pete Kafari, who has his own business right here with an app, New Start Mobile. And the woman who was, until recently, the director at Dirigo Labs, which is sort of an accelerator, mentor, incubator program down in Waterville near Colby. And they have had a lot of support from this thing called Center on Rural Innovation, which is based in Vermont.
Mhm.
And it's how rural communities can look at technology as a great source of income, of viable businesses that can help support, you know,
Year-round
the
community.
year-round community, exactly. So we have a conversation coming up soon.
I
I
think
don't know
that,
where it's gonna lead, but we're talking.
Is there anything in like Hancock County, like sort of?
There
technical
is the
center or-
Union River Center for Innovation.
Mhm.
But they had a few like scientific technology, biosciences businesses in there, but many of them have left. And the problem is, I mean, I've been to some of these conferences, state conferences on this, and it's like, you have to follow the money. And so money's coming from someplace like Boston. They're like, yeah, why don't you come closer, come closer? So
Yeah.
so businesses that might start by people in Jackson Lab or the Bio Lab, and they come up with a plan, they come up with a spin-off business, and then they have to follow the money, and it takes them out of the area.
Mhm.
So the Union River Center for Innovation, they call it ERKI. It was sort of started by the Ellsworth Economic Development Plan there. They've kind of shifted gears from bioscience to more food related and small business related. So they do have spaces there, so they would be a good person. Yeah, why not talk to them? But they're doing less in the sort of bioscience technology and more into restaurants, retail, other kinds of businesses.
Interesting.
Is the Maine Community Foundation a group that should be somewhere on this?
Yeah, I was wondering about them for housing. Maybe they make more sense in economy.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
The UMaine has amazing programs for so many things, but I don't know if it's worth, if they're too far away,
Right.
to make it worthwhile.
What about the Root Institute? Did they ever?
Well,
Come up here.
well, there's a lot of back and forth with Jax.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people. I mean, Lauren listened to a lecture the other day from a person who had been Lauren's mentor, who at Jax, who was that day down in the Rue Institute and giving a lecture from there. And so it's Jax and the Rue Institute.
Okay.
And what they're doing is outreach to different businesses, big entities, to find out what do you need?
Right.
Because we can help each.
Develop those talent, yeah,
Exactly.
which is really cool.
Yeah, so one of our apartment tenants is actually a graduate of the Rue
Very
Institute.
cool.
And so she's part of that conversation we're having, comes back to, so.
Who's coming from COA?
It is going to be Dave Feldman.
Great.
All right, how about municipal services and infrastructure? Our list was Harbor Police and Fire. Other town fire departments, because there's, reciprocal agreements. The libraries, Acadia Disposal District, the League of Towns. Can we think of anything else?
Well,
Other ambulance associations, because Southwest Harbors.
Yeah, I kind of meant that, but yes.
Yes.
So like other ambulances, yep.
And do you put the Coast Guard on here somewhere?
Sure.
That's a good idea.
well, the fire departments have mutual aid agreements, but.
Yes.
Yep.
The libraries.
Yes. Interlibrary loan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
This one
How
was,
about the harbor, I mean, that sounds silly, but harbor masters, they each have one and they all kind of do things together.
yeah.
How do they do that?
What's that?
How do they do things together?
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that they, I don't know that they actually help us in this aspect, but they, they would all kind of do the same function for each harbor.
Sure. And
And it has to do with, ease of transportation from the water to the,
Yep.
the flow of things is controlled through their
yep.
office.
So the question would be, that's maybe something that we should encourage our harbor master to engage with other harbor masters to do more collaborative type work.
I
Like we.
I would wanna know what they think. I would wanna know what they think about that before we go proposing that they should do that.
It's just something to think about.
Okay. Could have like another league of towns with just harbor masters. This is what we need. Okay. About education,
Can you add down these horizons,
to which part?
education?
Yep.
They also do transportation, and they also do housing, so.
Yes, so we don't have like a social services.
No, but
Which,
maybe one we should have.
right, so it's like that. That's horizons and include.
Yep. It's a good one, because I don't think we have one that's like, there's a nursing association.
That's what I was-
Right, with the nursing
Yeah.
schools. I mean, that would be another
Another, yeah.
education thing.
Yeah, the nursery school.
In the community school.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else under education? Is there, where did Ron Beard used to work? Maine.
Extension.
Extension.
Yeah.
Where was that located, in Milford?
What am I missing under? Can we?
Well, education, the other thing is Boggy Brook.
Yep.
HGTC. That's the same thing.
What is it?
There are a bunch of kids from here.
Hancock County Technical School.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah, Boggy Brook is interesting because when I was in high school, which was 100 years ago. That was a place where we were like, oh my God, Boggy Brook, but now like a lot of kids go there. It's a pretty cool program.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're thinking of relocating it.
Oh, really?
Really?
How could they do that? They change their name from Boggy Brook?
no, that would be a big difference.
On education, how about Eastern Maine Community College
okay,
in Ellsworth? I think they're bigger places in Bangor, but they have an. Also.
Adult ed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Delta is part of, it's under there, it's not even.
We put libraries under municipal services, and I feel like the libraries and the schools work really closely together. We should
Yeah.
resist them here.
Yes, they are our library here.
So where do you put the YMCA and the YWCA? Social services?
Yeah, I would say, but like
Yeah.
another, because I think we have our inventory is called like health and recreation, but I think we could have like a social services community.
And the neighborhood house would go into there and the harbor house.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But entities could be under more than one.
Yes.
Easily.
If you're gonna have health, obviously you have to put the hospital in. They're not really a social group.
you think here, or we call it like,
I don't know, did you say that there was a health category?
There's an inventory, I think health and rec, in the previous plan, it was like health and recreation were together, so.
So we definitely want
for my writing, I'm just gonna leave it under social services, but
Yeah.
we could break it up at the
Yeah.
end, just since we're.
And you would also put the nursing, you have the nursing association.
Yep.
What does Southwest Harbor have for community health right now?
The health center.
Okay.
Because the other one's now housing development,
Oh, is it?
I believe so, yes.
On Herring Road?
Yep,
Yeah, it's owned by Harrington.
Oh.
Or Witham, or Walsh, or
whoever
whoever.
are now, right?
Hmm.
Yep. So there's that. I don't know if we want to put Northern Light in there or anything, but. Okay.
No.
None of us-
10 more minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Social services, anything else?
I think it would be a stretch to put the hospital in under education, but they certainly have done and are doing a lot
Yep.
of medical education. They're about to start a residency program for primary care providers, not just a medical student. And they do PAs, they do pharmacy students.
They're doing medical assistant.
they do
Yeah.
medical-
I mean,
CNA.
it's the will of the
Lots.
group,
Doing
I'm happy to put
CNAs.
it There, if it makes sense.
Yeah, it's a specific type of education, but they also will bring in college students. They've had
Yeah.
college students from Colby and COA. The COA sends, they do short projects there.
Well, COA was in your list printed.
Or was it?
Yeah.
Good. I would have been surprised if I'd forgotten about that. What's the thought of the group on the hospital under education?
It doesn't have to go, but they're doing a lot of it.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of it, specifically in the medical field, with the idea of training people who will be conversant with and interested in working in small communities.
Right?
I mean, that's the reason they're doing it.
That's something like the counseling collaborative.
Oh, that, social services.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Is there another?
Well, and wouldn't you do Healthy Acadia also?
Yeah. Yeah, you can put the hospital under social services as well for that.
And you also have Down East treatment for substance use disorder, and you have the groups in Southwest Harbor.
Yeah, what's that place that just bought the
Shack,
shack? Yeah.
yeah.
What's the name? What's the name of that group though?
The acronym is SHAC.
That's it.
Not. Safe House, Alana
You look it up.
something.
Yep.
Safe House Alana Club,
Yeah, they're doing. They did a lot.
SHAC.
Base, pretty awesome.
yeah.
And so would you put AA under there as a social service group as well?
Sure.
Safe Harbor.
Alana Group Club.
Safe Harbor Alana Club.
Harbor, yeah.
It's a decent list.
That's a great, I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
an amazing amount of things here.
Mhm.
I mean, you could do a lot of stuff in Bar Harbor, so you could do the, I mean, they're not doing it, the meal. If you're gonna do social service, I don't know.
I feel like these are not exhaustive.
Yeah, the food
This is a great,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we don't need to- we're
yeah,
gonna
like
do
it's a
this
great
soon. Yeah.
start, but and we don't need to, we can't assume that we would try to.
That's incredible, there's this many.
Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Next, on our, did you have a question?
no, go.
We had natural resources, marine resources. Our list was Acadia National Park, Friends of Acadia, Maine Coast Heritage Trust.
Might be where your harbor masters go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Coast Guard.
Mhm.
And you do also like your marine patrol.
Mhm.
They work under
State.
Yeah.
oh,
Wait.
Yep.
And do you put immigration in there? Cause they do come in.
Oh, let's not.
They do come in.
If the boat is coming in from a foreign country, they need to be
Oh,
checked out, yes. Not to take people away, but to
okay.
allow
Oh,
access.
so that's like our tourists and
Mhm.
like people. That's completely different than what I was thinking.
No, I'm
I
sorry.
mean, we have ice coming in here now.
Too late.
Can't go there.
All right. How about historic resources? We had Mount Desert Historical Society, Maine Historic Preservation Commission, Maine State Library.
Just all the museums on the island. I
Mhm.
mean, just.
Well, the one in Bar Harbor.
Bar Harbor Historical.
Yeah, you've got Seal Cove Auto, you've got the Great Harbor.
The Abbey Museum.
Just running all museums.
Yeah, 50s here.
Mm-hmm.
BH Historical.
Great Harbor Maritime,
Yeah.
You're right.
Seal Cove Auto Museum.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
It's pretty impressive.
I know. Only like 10,000
really
people
is.
here.
Yeah.
Granite Museum, best
That's
museum.
right.
Yeah.
Really good museum.
One.
When we started here, people were.
Have you gone there with your kids?
Yes.
Do they like it?
Abby.
Yes, but it's really, really concentrated on the adults for a while and it was pretty, like, there was nothing for them. And then he really focused on them. So it was cool.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. He's doing.
He was, yeah.
All right, that's a pretty good list.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I like, there's a lot of cool stuff going on.
Wendell Gilly.
Oh, Wendell Gillen on there, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Sorry.
And then do you,
Crap at every day.
you know, you also got the criterion, which can go into anything right now,
Yep,
in the grant and elsewhere.
Social services.
But
great. All right,
Okay.
any other categories we're missing under regional collaboration?
Yeah, if you think about like the major topic areas, I feel like this hits on a lot of them.
Yep. Awesome.
Pretty good.
All right, let's move on.
Oh, public meeting.
Yep. All right. So I think the last time we talked about this, we were kind of broad brush outline of what we were thinking about. So this is like this is sort of an outline version, and then maybe we'll just go through
Thank you.
some of the details, but there's still quite a bit of stuff to be worked out. And primarily be interested to think about when we might want to have it. But there was we reached out to the neighborhood house. So first of all, when and where? So we did reach out to the neighborhood house and they do have some dates. They have like a Saturday, Sunday, October 4th and 5th, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And then they have a Monday, Tuesday, which is the 6th and the
7th.
7th.
And then we can ask for more dates, but that was sort of in the
Yep.
range.
So-
Whatever it is.
Yeah, so we were kind of originally thinking maybe end of, beginning of October, but we could certainly like look for some other dates a little bit later. There is another meeting on October 30th that we're doing. We could do it either sort of middle of October then or punt it to
Right.
early November, which is fine also.
Meaning that for this, there's a second.
Yeah.
Now, this would be the
This is,
meeting.
we're talking about a
right?
different project
Yeah.
at the neighborhood house.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
League of Towns, yeah.
There is a public, not a public meeting on the 30th, it's a League of Towns
Okay.
meeting on the 30th. So the question that we were wrestling with last time was forget about structure. Let's talk about the day of the week. Was whether or not we try to do something on a weekend. Or whether or not we just stick to the traditional weekday time.
Weekend.
Talk amongst yourselves.
How much time are we talking about?
Like
Well,
for
the
the
way
event.
that this is structured
3
is
hours.
2 hours,
Well,
maybe
2.5.
2.5 hours,
Yeah.
maybe.
4:30 to 7 on this schedule.
Are we thinking about childcare?
yes.
Okay.
Those are questions we have also.
What about, I think 4:30 is early, especially if someone doesn't work in the village where the meeting's being held.
If you're doing it on a weekday,
Yes.
yeah.
I think one of the problems with the weeknights is that there are so many people who have so many different meetings during the week.
And after school sports.
And after school sports and and school activities and dinner on the table and
If,
jobs and.
Yes, I think that would.
if we did a weekend meeting, do you think it would be better to push it into early November and not compete with like fall things that are happening in October? I know that this is my past experience with weekend meetings is usually they're not at all well attended.
I'm pretty skeptical about a weekend meeting.
We did have one with MD365, which actually was pretty well attended, but I think it was in the winter time.
It was
And
February,
there was like nothing else.
like a
To
Sunday afternoon in February,
Yeah.
right before COVID.
Is a
Community
February.
gathering.
What was that?
Yeah, if it feels like a community gathering and there's nothing else.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Sorry.
No, that's it. We were worried about having a snowstorm in February and then it was a beautiful,
Yeah,
clear sky day. I'm like, oh shoot, everyone's gonna be up skiing. you
Right.
know?
Right.
We had 40 people.
that's a pretty decent turnout. We had, yeah, and I think. I mean, I'm generally skeptical of weekend meetings, but. I think in the winter time, they can work because you could give good food and it seems like a community event when you don't have a lot.
Yeah.
But I think a fall weekend would be tough.
It would be.
I do too.
That's just my thought.
Yeah,
We'll do
If
whatever.
We're gonna do it in November when it's starting to get dark. You might want to do it earlier in the day.
Sure.
Start at 10 o'clock
Oh, I would definitely,
weekend.
on a weekend. If you're gonna do it on a weekend.
yeah.
yeah, if
Start
we're gonna do
early.
weekend day, we'd want to do early, I think.
Followed by lunch.
Yeah,
And you might want to look at when hunting season starts in November
Mhm.
and not go into that on
Right.
a Saturday.
Yep,
Smart.
okay.
Okay, so, but does anyone have like strong feelings like pro or against the weekend? I think that's where we're trying to figure out now.
Yeah.
Typically, these meetings are on weekdays. The 4:30 start is really like a come check in. There's a little bit of a self-guided interactive activity that people can do, but like the real kind of part of it kicks off around
5:30, actually.
5:30, right, right, okay.
Maine resident only day for deer hunting starts November 1st.
I would vote gently for a weekday,
Yeah.
4:30 start. With what you've said about
Yeah.
the start.
Yeah,
Just don't think you're gonna get anybody who works.
Yeah, we could try 5 to, so here's the format, broad.
What if we do 2 meetings? I don't think one is in question.
Yeah, we gotta do more. Yes. But the broad brush organizational structure is like we'll call it registration time. Which is basically, an hour, which we built in time to get there. You don't have to get there at exactly 4:30. But there'd basically be some activities that we want people to try to do while they're there. Look at some posters that we're gonna produce about the key findings that we've all talked about. There's some questions that are sort of building on this whole vision values discussion that we have to do. So the purpose of the meeting generally is to help us all develop language around vision values and then to start to think about goals and strategies. That's not to say that there aren't going to be more discussions about goals and strategies. It's just the beginning part. So we've organized it to be a little bit like vision values-y stuff at the beginning. Plenty of time to kind of get there and network. You don't have to get there at 4:30. You can get there at 5:30. And then 5:30 rolls around. That's when we have sort of a welcome, talk to everybody about what we're going to do. Then we have 30 minutes to do some exercise where people basically kind of self-guided exercise to talk about goals. What's your goal under each of these topics? And we're going to talk about it briefly. We're going to get to the other part, which is essentially like we'll call it a future land use discussion, but I think the term that I came up with was protecting what matters and guiding what's next. So it's thinking about sort of starting to transition into a bit more of the land use and really like, what are we going to do kind of discussion. So that would be small group discussion, working on a set of questions that we've started to develop already. That would allow people to engage in sort of that kind of conversation and with maps. And then we'll talk about it as a larger group and then we'll go on our way.
when you did all those different village meetings,
Yeah.
were those weekdays or weekends? They were weeknights.
Yep.
And you had good turnout.
well, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like 2002.
Yeah,
There's this real energy. I remember especially in Seal Harbor, like people were like, I haven't seen you in so long. They were just so happy to.
And we were all still wearing masks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
we did wear masks that
Yeah.
night, didn't we?
I was surprised. There was a lot of people and a lot of good energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you were there, Vince.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you.
That was a good, actually, one of the best turnouts we had. That in Soamesville was really good too.
It was packed.
Yep. So that's sort of the format.
So here's one of my questions for you. You're talking about early October dates. That's literally a month. Is that enough time to pull together some of these items that for the
I think we could, I mean, we could take a longer time I think we can pull together the logistics of the meeting in that timeframe. That's why we picked the early October one and not something sooner.
Does it need,
Um,
does it get advertised?
Yep,
Yes.
Yep, we started working on a postcard today in case we can get that out. It doesn't mean that like having more time to get the word out is probably better. If we pushed it into November, that would be fine. But I think for our purposes, that wouldn't be a problem.
You should bring that up too.
I would like to suggest that you just touch base with Mike Zabori, because I see that the RPC has not yet scheduled a town of Mother's reorganization.
Yeah, good suggestion.
But make sure they're not too
Mhm.
backed up on one
Yeah.
another. I don't know what Mike's, I mean, I'll see him on Monday and can ask, but.
Yeah, that would be important to know. Because we're trying to like not stack them up too hard.
The soccer season end.
No, it just started. Kids are doing it.
No,
Yeah,
did it
I
go
can't
into November?
Yeah.
And they can go.
If I know.
I think late October, right?
I think
It's late.
not with a Y, not like the neighborhood house, Harbor House, Wiley. I don't think that goes to November.
Get
Maybe
a
the
little chilly.
school.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
We'll never,
Find exactly the right date. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so so we can talk about this at the next meeting, but like in terms of like the follow-up public meeting, so there's a specific purpose that helps guide us for this meeting. And then I think it would be really interesting to start to think about some follow-up meetings that are basically geared toward maybe discussions around like specific topics. So like, hey, we've been wrestling with housing, and so we can start to have more facilitated questions around that particular topic that aren't like as broad as this one. Yep, and so this one, we're also hoping to capture people that didn't fill out the survey that might want to come. We talked about the idea of having somebody there at the beginning in this hour timeframe to video people and ask them a couple of questions that are very, kind of community oriented. Just to have at the end of the day, we could have a 5-minute comp plan video that's basically talking about, why the town of Mount Desert is awesome, kind of thing.
Is that instead of
Some of the
more
concerns.
like select?
Yeah, so
like that.
we reflected on that a little bit more, and I think there's value in like that idea, but I was thinking it could be interesting to actually have like the historical society almost like pair up to take that on and like do something like that. But for this, this person could come and set up a camera, and anyone who wants to say like, why'd you come tonight? Or like, what do you care the most about? Or like, what are you hoping to learn tonight? Or, what are your big concerns or whatever it is, something very like informal and kind of like just sound bites that you can put together to kind of capture what happened at the meeting. And then like, there could be some editing in the beginning to like have a voiceover, it could be Noel explaining here's what a comp plan is, things like that. And then that can be a resource for the website and for people who couldn't attend and things like that.
It's really nice.
I like that better rather than having something that ends up sounding like the Chamber of Commerce ad.
That we like curated what stories we want.
Yeah.
Not that that was
Yeah,
inherently what it would have been. But
Yeah, I wanted up knowing what to do about land use.
I don't know if I can share screen too, but
I logged into the Zoom. Are you logged in?
yeah, I just tried.
Oh yeah, I guess you are.
This is just like oops, it's already open. This is an example of like a postcard. I made up the date, and the time's wrong, but like if we wanted to send out a postcard, and then the back of it could look like that. That's just placeholder text. But I would really love for there to be childcare. I think if we can, pull that together, it could be like, we've never asked people to register for something like this, but if like somebody is looking for childcare, they could contact us. And if it's at the neighborhood house, I know we had talked about like, could we find a space to put on a movie? Like even in the
Have that little playroom.
okay, right. Yeah, something like that. And then we could get a couple babysitters who would want to come. And maybe we could pay them,
Nursery school staff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if that would help
get people there, then that would be great. In the past, we've done like cheese and crackers and like small water bottles, like but I don't know, what else we could do. But I think things like that are great. It's hard to sometimes like justify spending the money when, it ends up being an expensive overall project, but like little things like that can really help, because if you're coming with your kids and they're like going bananas because it's 6 o'clock and it's their dinner time, it helps to have stuff. Or for adults that go bananas when they're hungry too.
And the other thing about the structure is that there's that beginning part, which is a little bit self-guided. So you could participate in the beginning part and say your kids are just going to get cranky toward the end. You could skin out before the small group stuff if you had to.
I don't know if there's a way to say like a little bit of the agenda or some way to not say you can come for part of it. So you don't let people off the hook, but make it clear that there's a little bit of flexibility in different ways that.
Yep.
I think the sooner we can kind of pin down those details, we can put it up on the website, obviously like advertise it. I think that this format is also really easy to duplicate too. So if we wanted to like do one on a weeknight and try one on a weekend or whatever, like we could do more than one.
Yeah, we could try the first one, and then if we
Yeah.
get, 25 people, we could do another one relatively soon, I think.
And what were the dates again?
We haven't picked
Well,
the
we-
dates, but it was the.
Yeah, they had talked about like the 6th and 7th are a Monday, Tuesday. We were even thinking the week following, which is Monday, is the 13th of October. When is the
When is
marathon?
Columbus Day?
When is Indigenous Peoples' Day?
Right. Is that, it might be that weekend.
It's the
Okay, so
13th, yeah.
scratch that.
And
But that week,
Marathon is usually then the next.
It's
usually the
right.
third, so yeah.
so it could be like a Thursday of that week.
Yeah, we have to.
Not for
check
me,
with the town
daughter's getting married that day, so.
Kathy, unacceptable.
No.
Right.
Daughter's
Very, that is why.
I would generally push it later in October. I feel like the season's still crushing until like the 18th.
Yeah.
It's busy.
Why don't we look to early November then?
I'm gonna miss Katrina. Oh, honestly, I'm gonna miss your voice.
There,
You can be there.
Walker.
Yeah.
Are you sure? Well, maybe.
What's your date?
You can be there.
Yeah,
I
When'd
don't
you
see why
take-
it can't be.
You might not be driving yourself there, but someone will get you.
I probably shouldn't be driving
Yeah.
myself.
It's the 23rd, is that what you said?
27th,
What are you getting?
It's really early November.
Over?
October 27th.
You look very excited.
Yeah.
That's why I did.
Right.
I am excited.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we can't do it around one person, but I still.
No, I mean, no,
I still-
yeah.
Oh, we're going now.
But early November,
Yeah.
election day, what's that, first Tuesday of November?
That would be thorough.
It's not, there's not gonna be an election,
All
so.
right. Maybe, I don't think we need to punt it, but I think it's what we're gonna get the most participation. Sometimes I worry that if we punted it too long, then other things gonna sneak in, but
Yep.
I think if we're getting the vibe that it probably would be better to be like a late fall as opposed to.
Yeah, like first week of November.
Yeah, something
I
like
think
that.
if you do something early, then
Anxious
you miss
about-
the holidays too.
I think early, so we missed that.
We worry about the subsequent smaller session, like topical sessions being crunched and not having enough space. in the
No,
calendar.
I was thinking about it over the winter time, and what we need to do is just sit down and maybe look at a calendar moving forward and be like, okay, well, let's do let's pick November, December are out after this one probably. So starting in January, are we gonna do, how do we stack some things up? We just haven't done that yet.
Do you want me to draw my diagram?
Yeah. So, yeah, go ahead. So one thing, it's interesting to remind everybody kind of where we are in the process and how this thing kind of leads to the next thing, so that that we're not just sort of spinning our wheels on a bunch of stuff.
This is not a perfect diagram. But I just think about like this plan process and these chunks of time.
Green is smaller and red is bigger.
This is not, yeah.
That's not intentional?
Scientific, yeah, not.
Big scale.
Well, maybe. So I'm just thinking about like where we interact with
the public, right? So the committee this is the process, right? In a sense, like the committee has been meeting, but we did the survey and then we've been doing our sort of inventory analysis stuff. And then we have public outreach. And then we go into sort of goals, strategies. That's where we start writing policy ideas. And then we kind of go back to the public again, and there's more, but like, I feel like sometimes this part of the process feels so long and kind of like winding. And I know there's been a lot of like good energy to like get into this, like we're ready to, you know, talk about what we're gonna do about things. So part of this is where we are like today, like you are here. And what we're gonna get out of this portion is we're gonna be able to inform our vision statement, which is a requirement in the plan process by the state. So we will literally have to write something that may drive some of us crazy, but it's like, here's what we love about the town and here's what we vision, our vision for the future of the town of Mount Desert is, right? And it's like meant to be, this is what we imagine in 10 years the town is. It'll also inform goal as we start to write our goal statements. And then it'll also help us with our initial.
Whatever goal you
discussion. And so. If we think about like this as either one meeting or two meetings, this is our chance to kind of like get really great input from the community and we'll be telling them like, you know, here's what the plan is, what the process is. Here's what we've heard so far in the survey, and here's what we found in our sort of data gathering and analysis. And that's where we sort of present those key findings. And then we get to kind of get a lot of great material out of them that informs this next part of the plan process where we write the vision. Like here's where our goal of where we want to be. Here's our guiding principles. Here's our goals for housing, our goals for the economy, and so on and so forth. We will have heard from them as well, which is really helpful. Does that make sense? My very like non-scientific diagram.
Yeah. And also one thing I forgot to mention about the structure of this upcoming meeting is that we think it would be really interesting to build something into that sort of middle part where people are going around so that we can kind of rank, you know, the things that people think they should focus on, that we should be focusing on the most, or not we, but the towns, through some sort of like, you know, put a bean in a jar kind of
Yeah.
exercise, which, and then you could like really display it at the top of, at the neighborhood house and say like, hey, this is our.
We thought about giving everybody like 3 beans.
Yeah.
When they check in, they're making the bag, and it's like housing, you know, economy, whatever, and they have to put their top 3 kind of concerns.
Yep, which will help
That's
us
a good idea.
prioritize.
No, it is.
Yes,
It is good.
And when we get into implementation, that will be really.
Exactly, yeah.
These are the things that we said we wanted to really
Right.
hone in, or with this meeting said we really needed to hone in on.
And let's say there is like a really obvious 3. We can, you know, do more sort of like focused outreach around when we're writing goals and strategies around those topics.
Yeah.
With villages or however we want to set it up.
Yeah, I was actually kind of thinking, we said we wanted to get back to sort of villages, but maybe not doing like a village style meeting, but do we want to pick a topic and then go to a village and talk about that topic and do it in a couple of villages, or do we want to pick a topic and have a meeting and then at one village and then have another topic and just have a meeting at another village just to kind of spread it around? But it seems like we want to pick several topics. That's what I'm hearing, and then just talk about them in different locations.
I think you get better turnout.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we may want to do that over the winter. Yeah, because our village meetings were kind of bigger.
They were huge.
Well, the questions were bigger, and now we're gonna be like, okay, you know, this is what we talked, this is what you said you wanted to do, like, how are we gonna do this?
But how many meetings would that be? Like, if we have multiple topics and we go to all the villages, is that
3 or 4.
3 or 4 total meetings?
Yep.
Maybe I'm not understanding. Are you suggesting that we talk about housing in multiple, like, one of the options is that we could say, we're gonna do housing and like
I think we, what
Jonesville
I'm-
and
at
etc.
this point in
Okay.
my very initial thinking about it is that we would say like, okay, at our first public meeting, everybody prioritized marine resources, history, and recreation as the three top things that we need to talk about. And so we're gonna then develop a conversation around those priorities and go to each village and talk about them, the same thing at each village. Initially, that's my thought.
But so it might end up being like 12 or more meetings.
I think
Am I just making sure?
No, there'd be a meeting which to discuss 3 topics.
Yeah, it would be the same
Ah, thank you.
at each location.
Sorry, sorry, I was getting,
Yep.
I was up late.
We might like Stonesville and Sound Village,
Housing.
like we combined,
Yeah.
for example.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Do people recognize Sound Village? We had a whole conversation about
We
it
do.
today at work. We were like,
About it, but
We do. They want to have signs, they have all this stuff. I said,
yeah.
just, it'll come.
Combine it.
I learned about it here.
Yeah, we may have
Through
to,
it for years and years.
I think it would be the same sort of 4 places that we would have done for the first village meeting, so.
We can meet at the
Northeast Harbor gets
Historical
enough
Society.
Yeah,
coverage.
there you go.
Yeah.
Love that.
I know someone who
Going,
always makes.
going back to the
I'm
list
thinking-
of all the groups and so forth.
Yes.
I'm probably the last
Exactly.
person here to want to say this, but we probably should put churches in there somewhere.
Yep.
Oh,
Good
it
point.
seems like a big
Like
oversight.
maybe this, I don't know,
Mhm.
social agencies.
yeah.
Social services or whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Places where.
So anyway,
Oh,
that's our,
So you sort of need some guidance from us with respect to, okay, early November, are we thinking weekday or weekend? Correct?
well, yeah, what I've heard, the general consensus is let's stick with a weekday first. And if that doesn't work, we'll look at a weekend.
Yep.
Is that,
Yes.
It will be dark.
yes,
Right.
perfect.
And then there's still,
November.
there's still some vote November 2nd or whatever, right?
So what?
Yes, there will be
There'll be
a
some
referendum.
a referendum vote on
Yes.
this, so we should avoid people having to go out
Mhm.
Tuesday night and then Wednesday night or whatever.
Thursday.
But either the next week or on Friday or something.
Good suggestion.
Mhm.
What are we voting on? Is it a statewide?
Well, there's this
voter ID. So it's a statewide thing?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
All right.
Oh, geez.
So we'll look at the calendar for early November, whatever that is. We're trying to avoid Thanksgiving.
That's late.
To serve turkey and dressing and
Although
pumpkin
maybe that
pie.
would be really fun.
Yeah.
It would be, but we're gonna do it on Friday over Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Okay, do your.
Hi, Swap.
Ideas are amazing. I like it. I know you're joking, but I can see it. Yeah, not horrible.
Thanksgiving.
Anne Marie, we've got an
All right.
idea.
Yeah.
Does everybody understand we can go over it at our next meeting too, but like the components of this, so there's this like. I didn't think maybe, I don't know if we have pictures I could show. There's a component which involves like flip charts and questions at the top. You write your answer on a sticky note, you stick it on, we take pictures of them. It's very interesting and engaging for people to walk around. And those parts tend to help with the vision and values part of the discussion of the stuff we're trying to extract. And then the posters are like big kind of engaging infographic posters, which we've used in the past and tend to do well. And people, the ask there is to say like, what's one goal you have for this topic? So if there's a housing poster, then next to it would be a flip chart and someone could write a goal idea on it and then stick it to the flip chart next to it. That makes sense. Okay. So whatever, so people can visualize it.
And then the small group stuff would be more map. And,
Yes.
writing notes on the flip chart, and then we'll talk about it as a group.
One thing we think is sort of like a really interesting overarching, I don't know if theme is the right word, but like this town is so unique that there are these distinct villages, and we're trying to think about how to talk
talk about the town as a whole, but really like also acknowledge that the villages have their own individual sort of needs and
Personalities.
identities and
Mhm.
personalities, and like when you're making plans and policies for the future, like how do you make sure you do that too?
Yeah, it's a little microcosm of all of Mount Desert.
Yeah,
right.
That's just.
Right.
So in 2019, when our organization was on the Main Street, we had one big red wall. I don't know if you guys remember that space at all, but
Mhm.
we had the Christmas party, that Christmas festival, and I wrote on that big blank red wall, small town life and a wishing wall. I gave people Post-its and said, okay, write what's the best part and what would you like to have? And some of these things were so funny because a bunch of kids got into it. It's like, we want an indoor pool and hot tub. We want a fishmonger. We want an indoor playground. We want a doctor office. So that came through. A birthday party place.
Yeah.
They wanted a unicorn shop for girls and
Mhm.
it was funny. It was fun. So you can get some fun things out of it.
Absolutely.
Wouldn't it be cute if there's a kid's room, even if there's just like 5 kids, to have a little loading space or something? That would be awesome. It's so hard to get the voices of younger people.
Kids come, I feel like was it in Carabasset Valley? I can't remember, some kids were definitely
I think I know
giving
we've,
their
yeah,
input.
we've had some kids.
No, it was in Tremont,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Mhm.
I would totally go for an indoor pool.
Yeah.
Voting children.
I think
Well, you
the
could heat the skating rink.
Yeah, there you go.
beauty of the neighborhood house is that there's a little more flexibility to do fun stuff like that.
Mhm.
I actually really like the video idea too. I think that's gonna be pretty.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I feel like people will get into it, like,
Yeah,
as a,
so,
I think it's
We met
appealing.
with the videographer today. He's a young person who moved here from New York City. He's getting married in October, actually, so that yeah, it's better at the historical society. But yeah, he's very like personally interested in the work that you guys are doing and lives in Southwest Harbor, but you know, as like a young person starting their life here,
Yeah.
didn't grow up here, is like very interested.
Do they have a place to live?
Apparently.
yeah,
Okay, and they're not gonna leave.
I know.
across from
And
Milagros.
he and his fiance both have jobs, so
Mm.
Yeah,
yeah, amazing. We were like so fascinated by him.
yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that one of the things that I've been really struggling with, sort of local guy, but like the whole mentality, like, you know, what we had a good conversation at our last meeting, but we're getting into like some serious stuff. So it's not all dire, right? There's a lot of serious stuff that needs to be dealt with. But the idea that we can have a conversation and remind everybody, like, why is it important that we're dealing with this serious stuff? That's what the part of what that video can get to, you know?
Mhm.
Like, I've had a lot of conversations with people where they're like, well, we're just going to be what we're going to be. And I just can't, I don't know. There's something to remind everybody, like, there's a reason why we're all so passionate about some of these things. And I'd love to hear from people about that. So,
I guess I just want to circle back around to my sense that if we actually want to understand one another and we want to try to make the most change that we can, we need to figure out a way to dialogue amongst the parallel universes that exist in this community, and not in a you caused this to happen or you caused that to happen, but I think people don't honestly know the impact on other aspects of the community of their decisions. And I think, with it not being accusatory at all, but just having an honest dialogue with one another without it turning into well, this is a them versus us fight, and we don't want that. That's not what we want. We want a cohesive community where everybody understands
yeah,
their impact on the community as a whole.
yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And I would love us to be able to have those more candid dialogues with one another without setting one another's hair on fire over it.
Yep.
Do
Those
you,
are, go ahead.
do you imagine that taking place sort of in the context of the comp plan? And then my other question is, because if so.
Where does the summer community fit into this comp?
Right, so
Right.
if so, there's ways I think we can do that, but it also can be that we say,
you know, in the implementation process, or that we have some aspect of the plan that really gets at that. And it's not like a separate chapter maybe, but it's sort of in talking about implementation. How do we acknowledge that this is sort of part of the dynamics of this place?
It could be, we could decide that this is a project of the residents of the town.
Mhm.
And then now what?
Yeah,
We have to work with one another. I mean, in a much broader way than just little groups here and there.
Yep.
And we need to hear one another
Mhm.
in a constructive fashion.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think-
What can we do? What are our needs? What can we do together?
Yep.
How have we done? You wanna go, you should say that.
Not talk too much
Sorry.
as it is.
I'm a great interrupter. How have we done with our public outreach in terms of being present in different communities? Like I know the Memorial Day, was that Memorial Day, whatever the parade was,
Yeah.
there I saw, you know, we were there. But I don't know how much otherwise, and I'm asking the broader question, but including the summer residents, like how we made this feel like it's a collective effort, which I know is part of that.
You guys went to the summer
Summer
residence
residence, yeah.
2 times.
Just
right?
once.
Once?
We were just asked to.
I think
5 or 10 minutes.
Not invited back.
we're not invited back.
Did you
Yeah.
expect?
And then
But-
I was
yeah,
actually
there's space for that.
Florida, dropping my kid off at college, the second meeting, so.
But I think that after, you know, we had a wonderful party at Brown's. And the people who celebrated that, you know, the Brown family,
Mhm.
I think it just made people realize, wait a minute. Holmes is closing, Brown is closing. What's gonna happen?
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? And I don't know how you have that, you know, because most of the summer people are gone. They'll be back.
Yeah.
They'll be back for Columbus Day, some.
Hmm.
There's a lot going on with, you know, at the fleet, at the pool, at the,
But if you think about the summer families that come back for Columbus Day, they tend to be the older
Yes.
crowd,
not the younger
not
ones.
the younger ones. And the older crowd does not spend money as willy-nilly
Right.
as the younger crowd.
Mhm.
So it's not yes, the older crowd does support the community and they do it perhaps in a more metered way. And the younger crowd tends to just, I don't want to say throw money around, but they,
Stuff.
you know, they have,
Well, they have different values and it's just,
I'll let you say that.
no, I mean, I was just kind of floored and I realized, I don't
Well,
really know people.
I don't think Columbus Day we need to do anything, but I like the idea of this is the residents' comprehensive plan. This is this is the
Yeah.
town meeting that votes on it,
Yeah.
right? But then how do we take it somewhere? And how do we build into that a better sense of one another in the different parts of the community? And how that impacts what we can and can't do.
Yeah.
To maintain a year round. Basically, it's gonna come down to trying to maintain a year round community.
Yeah, I'm imagining by the time early summer is rolling around, we are gonna have an interesting set of goal and action item ideas that would be great to workshop with the summer community in some way yet to be determined.
Could do it by Zoom.
Yeah, and there's like, at that point, there's so much to like respond to, you know what I mean?
Right.
So I think there'll be a lot to engage
I
around.
would rather not.
I also-
Would be sitting here.
I would too,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're sitting there.
But I also
Maybe it's
appreciate,
not gonna be
until next July. Yes.
So when,
and appreciate the concept that this plan is, we have to, at a certain point, although it's called a comprehensive plan, we are not going to be comprehensive. And in a lot of planning processes, it's okay to say, like, here are the things that are left to be resolved.
Yes,
And this is how we hope to try to resolve those
Yes.
things and set out a plan to try to do that. And that in and of itself is an action item that can come from this.
So that's what I mean, like,
Yeah.
if that, so there's that's the other approach, is to write something into the implementation section, which is when you have all your goals and strategies and you're like, here are our priorities, here's what we say we're gonna do. Then it's like, how are you gonna do it? And if there's something about the dynamics of this place, or it's like particular topics are more divisive or whatever it is, or more difficult to,
Let's explore. shall we
right,
say.
that like, that, then to really be, proactive and deliberate about how, and kind of confront, that in a collaborative way, to say how we're going to work together to make these great ideas happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm impractical or naive, but
Yeah.
it just seems like having the summer residents part, like at the table, as opposed to have like a specific meeting, whether or not in person or virtual, for them to reflect on. Like part of it is I feel like it would be beneficial to bring them into the conversation,
Yes.
understand the dynamicism of
Yes.
like this community.
Yeah.
And so I guess if there's a way, that's why I asked about the broader like outreach in terms of, it's not just they have a lot of money and power and they're a central like player kind of in the community, but it's not just them. We want these different voices together, I would think. So how do we, and obviously summer folks, many of them are not going to be around when we have our, some people come back for Thanksgiving, but like they're the old or whatever. But is there something in the spring that we think of as a bigger,
Yes.
it's not just the meeting that we want to like bring to this group, but we make sure they come.
Yeah.
I think they're meaningful and useful, they're extended conversations, they're not just
Yeah.
a conversation, they
Mhm.
might even, you could break those down by, there are plenty of people out on Bartlett's that, down that road that, or Pretty Marsh, that you could have a conversation just there among people.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
I mean, I keep thinking back to Privilege in Place.
Uh-huh.
I keep thinking back to the fact that I don't think that we each realize necessarily or think about our impact on one another as
Right.
as groups of interests and groups of different patterns and pathways of behavior that really don't interact that much.
But could there be, like, I'm thinking about Zoom, I don't know that Zoom's the right format, but like the breakout session feel, not necessarily virtual, but like, could there be a gathering where there's a mix? And I know it's hard to get people to come, but like, how do we do
Yeah.
that? Where there's a mix of people and then we separate?
We like.
A smaller conversation.
But like, I love that idea, and I think that these planning processes, like, they're tend to be very prolonged, and that often gets shortchanged, right? And so like, if you all are into that idea and the town, we want to spend that time, we can workshop like goals and strategies with a group of people that we really deliberately try and make sure we get representation from the summer community, and like do sit around a table together. And
Well, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I
Let's
think
start with something.
we don't know, like, I feel.
Just for my brain,
Mhm.
when is it supposed to be finished?
Right.
oh.
When is the next town meeting?
May.
May.
May of 26,
I think we want to try to finish this plan by
May of 27.
27 town
Okay.
meeting.
Because there is a lot of, one of the interesting things is like the summer people never really had, they'd have their dinner parties and do that, but they didn't have, like, we actually had an event that it was so much fun, and it was at the tennis club, and it was a barbecue.
Mhm.
And, my mother probably would have had a stroke, but, and people said, this is really great. So now the golf club, which has never had, a barbecue or even talk about it, they're like, well, that works so well. We want to do stuff like that. So there's been a change. There's like a change of the guard.
But that's within that community, and
Well-
that's not a place to sit around and have a meeting.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying there's a different opening of people in what they,
Are interested in different.
yeah.
But also, don't you think with the use of computers and sending out formats and people being able to sign up for listservs, that more people can become more involved in this process at an earlier time and can read what's going on. Because if you think about today and when the last comprehensive plan was created, we've come a long way.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the ability to share information more rapidly.
Right.
Yeah, to get back to what Suzanne was saying, though, we'll have had the opportunity between now and even next summer, when people are around, to do more face-to-face stuff, to have developed things more to a point where it's nicer to react to,
Mhm.
you know, and we can have a more a deeper conversation about some things, I believe.
I still think, I really like the idea of having this kind of stuff be one of our goals.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
One of our goals, not necessarily one of the things we do to create the plan, but one of our goals is to create deeper understandings.
Yeah.
And deeper buy-in from different sections of the community.
Yep.
For the well-being of the community as a whole, and
Yeah. Absolutely.
We can create like our own section, you know, that
Yes.
addresses that.
yeah,
I think
because
that-
we're not every community has.
Yeah.
That parallel.
Because I think now more people are realizing,
Yeah.
oh, golly gee whiz.
Yeah,
They said it was gonna be a problem if we didn't do it.
yeah.
And now it really is a problem. And so they don't know what to do about it, but
Tell them to start going to the comp plan website and learning
That's what I've
about
tried
what
to
our
do.
committee meetings are talking about. We want to actually like connect the recordings too somehow as well. So I don't know who is gonna take the time to watch it.
there's a whole group of younger people that live here year round.
Yeah.
And they just feel like they're not gonna be able to find any housing.
Mhm.
And so I have to go back now because they all said, I gave them my email and you could email me. Nobody has done that. So now I have to go find all these people again
Yeah.
and have like a little card or something that I give them.
Mhm.
So that, and I found there's a group of 20 vegan women who have dinner at the neighborhood house every Thursday.
Really?
Third Thursday. Well, and it doesn't start until November because, and so they're doing picnics and they said, well, you probably don't want to come to the picnic. I said, well, I do. Where is it? You know, but anyway, so I mean, and then I got sick, so then I couldn't really follow up with all this. But I mean, I found this whole group and they're at the Town Hill Farmers Market. And
Great.
they all have they're all connected.
Are they all Mount Desert residents or are they all over the island?
No, most of them were,
Huh, cool.
which I just was floored.
Yeah.
Are they younger?
Yes, yes, they are. And the saddest story was when I was telling them about, the comprehensive plan and you could go to the town website and this man and his wife, and then they had a baby and she came over and he said, and he looked at her and he said, listen to what she's telling us. Maybe it isn't going to work for us because we had to move away. And we have a farm now right outside on the Bayside Road. But maybe our daughter could come back because all of their family on both sides have lived here for generations.
Yep.
And I just
Beautiful.
went, I said, that's just what we want.
Yeah,
So there are people there. You just have to find them.
absolutely.
And they're all networked. I was the old lady that,
Yeah.
no, I couldn't work my phone and,
I have one more thought about the conversation around like conversation and convening, and I just feel like we don't know how the comprehensive plan gets put into action and what the like teeth are, or there are limited teeth. And so the process is a place where we have impact, and if we can as a committee bring together and utilize the extra year that we have now in the calendar to have more conversation with more facets, that seems
Yeah.
really valuable.
Absolutely. Yep. And when we start writing those goals and strategies, like being really mindful of like, we always say like, okay, here's the suggested time frame. Like, is this a short-term thing? Is it a medium-term thing? And we define that. But then who's the responsibility? And I'm thinking about like the committees that exist currently, or do we need to think about something else? Like in the midst of writing the Belfast comprehensive plan, they like formed a housing committee essentially. So we like went back and revised and assigned them a lot of things.
I also agree that it should be in the goal, like, I think that
Yeah.
makes sense to
Yeah,
build
yeah,
it
yeah.
in as a long term, so not.
Yeah, it should be ongoing.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be.
Yeah, it's not,
I think we've given us. What? We have not.
All right.
I
Great.
think that's
We-
all,
yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
we had, so.
No
thank you.
public
Not so
comments?
much of this last, I think that's.
There was a discussion.
Yeah, like, it was a discussion and
Let's watch the recording.
Connections.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
That's a great question. I'm thinking about something like, I don't even know what they are.